Doris McCarthy is one of Canada's foremost interpretive landscape painters. Tutored by members of the Group of Seven, Doris McCarthy developed her own unique vision. During her remarkable 70-year career, her ongoing passion has been to capture the beauty and energy of Canada's landscapes. She's created thousands of powerful and poetic works. Her many accolades include the Order of Canada, and she was recently designated Artist of Honor by the McMichael Canadian Art Collection.
This is, I suppose, the most exciting thing that has ever happened to an artist.
For most of her life, Doris has lived on the shores of Lake Ontario. At home on Toronto's Scarborough Bluffs, she is, as always, down to earth.
Hello, I'm Doris McCarthy, and this is Scarborough Bluffs, and we live together. I'm on Lake Ontario, as I have been since I was a child, because I grew up at the beach, and the lake has been my mother and father all through my years. I love living here because of the space, because I can see the sky, watch the water change with the weather. I have to hang on sometimes not to get blown away, and today is one of the days. We've got a wind on, and the wind creates a certain amount of erosion. The water creates even more. I suppose in 60 years that I've been here, I've lost about an acre. And I find that no day is ever like any other day. So this is my beloved pond that has been such a pleasure to me. I had it put in about 1963. This now gives me the calendar of the year, because as soon as the ice goes, the ducks come in. When the ducks are still there, the toads come along here and they sing all night. And all the lady toads come chasing along, and they mate on the pond, and they leave strings of toad eggs, and all those toad eggs become tadpoles, and the tadpoles bring the children, and we have a whole sequence of events centered around the pond. And then when it freezes, the grandparents come down and keep it swept off, and the little kids come and have a lovely time skating on it. The apple trees that I planted in about 1940, and which have been bearing for all these years, very good apples. A bit wormy because I don't spray them, but otherwise very good indeed. Now I want to show you some of my other trees. So this lovely tree is a copper beech, which is a beautiful color in the spring and fall, a lovely rich burgundy. And at the moment, of course, it's a wonderful green. It was given to me by my adult students the year I retired. They asked me what I would like for a present, and I said I would love a beech tree. And when it came, it was a little tree, so big, with a little higher than my head, but not much. I was able to plant it myself. And now it has grown to be a magnificent old, almost an old lady, not nearly as old as I am, but getting there. And I can hardly reach around it. When I come up to it, they don't quite meet. They don't quite meet. What a magnificent lady she has become. And somewhere down here at the roots, I buried the ashes of one of my very dear friends, who is forever part of this world of mine. And I love thinking of him when I'm here. When I built my house, Bellamy Ravine was the same width that it had been for approximately 10,000 years. But after the war, that whole area, which used to be farmland, built up and became suburbs, and that meant that roads were paved, driveways were paved, roofs were there, and when it rained, instead of all going into the ground as it had when it was farmland, it all poured down onto the street and eventually down through the Bellamy Ravine. and it gouged out the center of the ravine and kept going deeper and deeper. The trees fell in, the sides collapsed, and I was losing land at a most alarming rate. In 1986, which was the year I had decided I would have to move the house, because if I waited any longer, I couldn't get machinery in to move it. That year, the Metro Conservation Authority took over. There were as many as 500 trucks a day coming down and dumping fill, dumping fill, dumping fill, going bang, bang, bang. And it was a beautiful sound to me, believe me. We'll walk out here over this area. I have to find where the animals go down because I don't go down this way very often. I do occasionally, but this looks like a good entrance. I can get in here. Oh, hello, lake. Those lovely bulrushes, aren't they marvelous? This time of year, you see so many monarchs because they're getting ready for their migration, I suppose. When I first saw my own land and walked down from the hill behind it out to the edge of the cliff and looked down and saw the wreck of the Alexandra, then I said, this is for me. This is definitely, I am intended to be here. There's no such thing as coincidence in this world. I was meant to live there from the time that I was 11 years old. This is the beach that my father and I picnicked on when I was 11 years old, the first time I was ever considered old enough to take the bow of the canoe while Dad paddled the stern. And I was very much impressed with the fact that I was now his friend and an adult, not just his little girl. This used to be where the bluffs ended, and from now on we're in the water. But about the third year that they were doing this rehabilitation work, there was a tremendous spring slide, and I guess thousands and thousands of tons of fill slid down into the lake. It went out much further than it does now. And I'm told that for a year or two it was used as a nude beach in the summertime. I never saw that because I was up at the cottage, but I think that it would be a very nice place for it, private and warm and beautiful. I rejoice to see that they are protecting the base of the bluffs by building out stone piers in that direction, and I think they're going to do it all the way along as far as Bluffers Park, so that the bluffs will be protected and they won't have the problem with erosion that they have had for many, well, I suppose for centuries. So welcome to Fool's Paradise, or FP as most of its friends call it. But we all know that Fool's Paradise is the name that I adopted when my mother said one day, "What are you going to do, going out to that Fool's Paradise of yours again?" And I loved the name. I thought, that's perfect, because I was a bit of a fool to think I could have a home of my own out here on the bluffs when there wasn't a soul around. It was wild country in those days. And on the other hand, I thought it was going to be my paradise, and it has been. And so all my friends, and there are many, many friends built into this house, because everybody helped me in the early stages. And it was Bob Ross, one of my colleagues at Central Technical School, who drew the angel, which I made into a weather vane. Now, I haven't painted Fool's Paradise very often because I'm usually too busy when I'm here. I'm working in the garden, entertaining friends, washing dishes, dusting, cleaning, taking out the garbage, answering the telephone. But on those rare occasions when I have had time to focus, I have just loved to paint it. Always I have enjoyed painting it because it's one way of celebrating the place that I love. You see, I depend on my painting trips for material for the summer, because although I take my painting trips in spring usually, April, June, so on. My big painting session is up at Georgian Bay. When I get up there, I have a studio up there, and I'm free to look at the sketches that I've done in Ireland, in Newfoundland, all over the place, and I start working from them and producing the big canvases that are really the most serious part of my year's work. The landscape up there is quite different from here. There's more space around it, and space is precious to me. It's what I talk about in most of my paintings. I think that my greatest gratitude is for creation. My creation and the creation of the world that I live in. And one of the reasons that I'm a landscape painter is that the natural world which I find myself in is endlessly inspiring to me. I wish I knew more about it. I wish I were a biologist and a geologist and all the other things that would let me understand everything that I look at. As it is, I see it. I see it as shape and color and movement, rhythm, and these are the things that I work with to say, thank you, God, for putting me here and for letting me live to be part of it and to express it and to create in my own way from it. And I'm going to move that island over to make the climax for the painting. I move that island around often. I know how to move it. It's not difficult. The pines will be up here, filling this corner with this kind of movement. And that goes off into greenness up there, doesn't it? Well, that is not what I was expecting. What on earth have I got in there? Oh, I know what I did. I touched that. Ah, nuts. This is what I wanted to touch. Because the thing you have to remember is that what I'm doing is making the picture, not copying it. So if I want it to be bluer in here, it gets bluer. Hello, darling. Special extra little Tigger has joined me. And sometimes I do the sky upside down because the sky is usually domed. It's lighter at the horizon. As it goes up, it gets darker. It's easier for me to paint to go from light to dark than it is to go from dark to light. So if I can see where I intended to put the clouds, I must say I find this a little difficult. And the sky also gets warmer, less green as it goes up toward the zenith. So I changed the kind of blue I use. Oh darn, look, it's done it down there. Oh, I'm lucky I can mask that. There's a great deal of nerve-wracking luck when you're working in watercolor. And the far shore is very, very, very gentle. It's all I can do out here. I have to wait till I get back to the studio. But I had a good time doing it. It was great fun. Now that's the sketch that I did on the scene. I was in April I was in Ireland, and I sat perched up on the edge of a road and made that sketch in oils at the time. But when I came to translate it into a canvas, I wanted the sands in the middle to be more important. And so I opened that whole area up. I dropped this line to allow me to have more of the water and the tidal sands. I kept the story back here, but I intensified the color. That blue is stronger than that. The pattern is a little sharper and more definite than it is up there. And I reduced the importance of that part of the foreground, which I found difficult to explain, kept it smaller. I put a peat pile in beside the cottage, which would explain the reason for the dark gashes in the earth, because the peat is dug out of the bog or the grass and leaves these dark scars behind it. And so I think that the painting has a kind of rhythmic unity which is stronger. I try to keep what I got in the original sketch, but give it the extra architectural firmness and decision that you can only get in the studio when you have time to think about things and try them out and change them and so on. Under the stress of the moment, you're lucky if you get anything that's a good composition and get your color right. I love paddling. I think it's one of the most beautiful ways of seeing the country, because you can go so close to the shore and it's quiet. Oh, most beautiful of northern sounds, I think. That's a plus. So when I come back from the bay, I come back to this glorious place that I love so much, right on Lake Ontario, on top of the bluffs, and I greet it as my really home, the home of my heart. And it reminds me that if I go down to Bluffers Park, I will see the bluffs at their most dramatic and most interesting, because the erosion there has left amazing pinnacles and needles which are really worth exploring and even worth painting. Now these, up there was the shore, the bottom of Lake Iroquois in the last ice age, and this was all deep underwater. And when the glaciers receded and the St. Lawrence opened up and it all drained away, that was left high and dry, and Lake Iroquois sank down to being Lake Ontario. And that's why the geologists love these bluffs, because when they come here and look at the surface of the bluffs, they find all kinds of fossils and things in the very surface which tell them something about what was going on underneath Lake Iroquois through the centuries. And the forms are so beautiful in themselves. They're so sculptural. And they vary so. The caves occasionally, these wonderful caves where the erosion of one kind or another has cut holes deep into them. That crack will probably fill with ice during the winter and break that hummock apart. Woo! Look, he's going to dive. Wonderful. It's wonderful to see them down there. I wonder if it's one of my Georgian bay loons on its way south. It could be. When I'm painting down here, I like to get far enough away, perhaps over on the beach there, so that I can see the thing and see it against the sky and choose a shape that composes well, usually 2 or 3 shapes. But these are very, very special, and they're very handsome. I'm glad of them. They're good. I'm sitting here just enjoying the very subtle changes of tone in that water. They're so much alike and they're so different and they're so beautiful. And it's all good. The weeds, the mud, the rocks, the footmarks, the sand, the boulders along the shore, and the life in the water. So this is my landscape, and I'm a landscape painter. Landscape is important to me. The earth that I live on, the earth that I work, the places that I paint, they are what make me and what make me eager that other artists will know what I have known here, the peace, the focus, the contentment. So I've given the place to the Ontario Heritage Foundation, and they're going to look after it and make sure that other artists have that opportunity. So that I look forward to the days when I'm not here, but other artists are, and I think that we're going to be very happy together. I'm not afraid of it. I plan to be hovering like that angel, keeping an eye on things.